Hey guys, welcome back to History with Mrs. Lee. Today I wanted to try a different approach and kind of walk you through one of my PowerPoints because our topic of discussion today is going to be a review of the Articles of Confederation and their weaknesses, and then the event called Shays Rebellion that is going to encourage Americans to want to replace the Articles of Confederation with a different and stronger federal government. So some issues that we were dealing with after the American Revolution and the Treaty of Paris would be an economic issue of debt after the war. A political issue we dealt with would be represented by the pinky finger. We had a weak central government with no president and no judiciary. All of the power was really placed in the hands of the states and the people. And the reason that this was done was to prevent a tyranny from happening like we had experienced with the king and parliament. Now, another political issue we had was strained relationships with other countries. Going back to this debt after the war economic issue, we had borrowed money from countries like France and Spain, but we did not give the federal government the power to collect taxes to pay off the debt. The power to collect taxes was actually given to the states, and that's going to come into play with today's event of Shays Rebellion. Okay, a social issue could also be the strained relationships. It's going to be difficult for us to maintain allies and to build alliances when people see that we're not paying back our friends and we're not able to support them in their own revolutions and wars. We have no respect from other countries because of this issue as well. We dealt with boundary and border disputes as we expanded west, but we did see one strength of the Articles of Confederation being the Northwest Ordinance, which gave us an orderly process for territories to become states once they had 60,000 people and were willing to ban slavery. Another social issue we dealt with was relationships with Native Americans would be strained because we had to help create treaties with these Native Americans who were living in that land of the Northwest Territory. Economically, we're kind of struggling with who to trade with. We don't have mercantilism anymore, and some of our allies are kind of upset with us, so maybe they're not going to want to trade with us. But also, Britain is going to close some ports in other parts of the world in their other colonies and not allow us to trade with them, especially in the Caribbean. We don't have a national currency. The states were producing their own dollar bills and coins, so that's going to make trade within our own country difficult. Setting up a government. We needed a way to create our own government and make it different from the parliament and the tyrannical king, but who should we give the power to? We thought giving it all to the states and making a very weak federal government was going to work out, and we're not seeing that being successful. Again, the national government did not have the power to collect taxes, only the states did. And that could also be considered a political issue. And then we talked about the pointer finger, this being a social issue. States are all blaming each other for their problems, and nobody's really looking out for the whole country. They're just looking out for themselves. So this leads us into an event called Shays Rebellion. And Shays Rebellion is basically going to be farmers are struggling with selling their crops after the American Revolution. America goes through an economic depression. We are not able to trade with certain countries, and we are not able to get some of the supplies that we needed. So they're having a tough time selling their crops at a decent price. But the state, who did have the power to tax, not the federal government, just the state, they were trying to collect taxes from these farmers who were poor and couldn't afford to pay the state taxes. In return, the state government would seize the farmer's land. And if you seize something, that means you take it away. And then if that land couldn't be helpful for paying these taxes or this debt of the farmers were thrown into jail. Daniel Shays and several other former soldiers from the American Revolution are farmers who are struggling during this time period with paying their taxes. They're tired of seeing their friends and neighbors being thrown into jail or having their farms taken away from them because they can't pay the state taxes. And so Daniel Shays leads a revolt, and he and these fellow farmers, they revolt against the state government, and they take weapons to use against the state government. In fact, they go and they want to stand in front of courthouses to block judges from getting into the state courthouses so that these judges are not able to seize the farmers' lands or write any warrants for arrest to put these farmers in jail. Well, the state militia, remember, militia is just the volunteer army, they come out, and at first they fire some shots over the crowd's heads, but eventually they start firing shots into the crowd and they kill 4 farmers. This event is going to really wake up Americans to the idea that, hey, we're letting the states have all the power and there's no federal government to intervene and step in when there's a problem within the states. And so this will make Americans realize that the Articles of Confederation are going to need to be replaced. Simply reforming them probably will not be good enough. We need a stronger federal or central or national government to step in and not give so much power to the states so that we can have a more effective and efficient government.